Hi everyone, Janelle here. I'm a functional nutritionist and doctor of natural medicine. This is my podcast where we talk about midlife wellness in the mountains. Today I sat down with Janet Stone, one of my favorite yoga teachers, to discuss ways yoga and yoga practices can improve how we feel and experience perimenopause and menopause. I loved this rich discussion. Janet gives us a few of her favorite practical and tangible ways to use yoga in our 40s and 50s. I also found out that Janet and I are very close in our journey towards menopause, as we are both in the waiting room and might need to plan a celebration together in just a few months. You are going to love this talk. Welcome, everybody, and welcome, Janet. I have been looking forward to having you here and to get your perspective and wisdom on how yoga and yoga teachings can help us improve our journey in perimenopause and into menopause. So again, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here.
So I joined one of your retreats at Esalen about 10 years ago, and I practice with you online regularly. So a lot about your teachings resonate with me, and I think they really relate to midlife. The big hormones that shift that we experience in midlife obviously affect us on a physical level, which yoga can help us a ton with, and I want to go there. But we don't focus as much on the fact that we essentially emerge as a new person in menopause. And that can come with a lot of conflicting feelings and discomfort. And there can even be some resistance. And I think yoga can help with that. So before we jump into all that, to start, can I ask where you are in your midlife journey?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Midlife, right? I mean, it's such a hard thing to really get a handle on because it has a different connotation for everyone. My father passed away at 45. So his midlife was in his 20s. And I had my stepfather pass away at 50, also midlife being in your 20s, right? I mean, obviously, that's not what we're talking about, but really to say we come with this assumption like we have this particular amount of time. And what I love to just sort of recognize for myself, really almost on the daily as best as possible, and as part of my practices, is recognizing this could be end life for me, or I could just keep going for a very long time. It could truly be midlife. But I do understand the tone of what we're talking about when we talk about midlife, in particular for women, and this incredible transition. And I think that the demystifying it is one of the most empowering things, in the sense that it could be in your 30s, not necessarily your lifespan type, but you could be hitting some pretty deep hormonal shifts. But then we also have to remember, like, our maybe childbearing ages, whether we're having children or not, like the amount of hormones, and right, there's just this ripeness and this intensity. And so yoga in and of itself is this look at the whole swath of transitions. So me personally, yeah, I'm deep in the woods. I would be in what they would call perimenopause, but not having my cycles for, I'm about 5 months away, my last cycle. And I'm in my mid 50s. And so in some ways, someone would be like, oh, that's later. Someone would be like, right on time, or, whatever perspective one might have, because this might occur to somebody in their late 30s. We don't know, as far as the physiology of the body. And I don't win any awards, or someone else doesn't get any demerits. It's just literally the absolute blessing of the chemistry of our particular body. And I know it comes with for me, it could easily come with a whole idea about relevance, identity, um, my worthiness and value, um, and in sort of romantic life and partner life, but also just out in the world, how we are seen or observed, or what categories that minds, as they must, would put me. So it's a very long answer to simply say I'm right here. And I'm not exactly sure where it is on the arc of midlife, but hormonally, definitely I'm awakened to brand new information out there, and because it's not interesting until it's applicable in some way or another, right? So if anyone ever went through pregnancy, it was never interesting before that, but suddenly you're like, you are the expert. You read up on everything. You're dive head into it. Maybe not puberty, just because you're just stumbling through everything, but
Yeah.
all these powerful, 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 intensive transitions. And I'd say I'm right there. I'm right in the heat of all of it.
There's so many things about what you just mentioned that I just want to double click on that I think are so important. What I really hear you saying, Janet, is something I believe is so true, but you really made it so profound in your answer that our personal stories are so important in this process, and our personal experience in life and our narratives is so important. So first you said the definition of midlife. You're 100% right. Like, I use the term midlife because it's shorter than saying perimenopause and menopause. But it's assuming a lot. It's
Yeah.
absolutely assuming a lot. And midlife looks different for all of us. So I really love that you clarified that. I really love that you spoke into the age differences, because yes, working with women in perimenopause, it can be anywhere from late 30s to late 50s. And it's all normal. It's all normal, and there's no awards given. And I really love that you highlighted that. And yeah, so I really loved your answer. I loved your longer answer to where you were. And Janet, we are 3 months apart in our waiting room. So I'll think of you for sure. And actually, I'm thinking of doing your Bali retreat because to celebrate my menopause journey. So if I do that, maybe we will be there together, newly in menopause, and I can cheers you.
Yes, I'm very happy to. Non-alcoholic, because we're
Yes,
not it
clearly.
just doesn't really serve as a drink.
Yes, yes. I,
Yeah.
I joke. I do the shot ski with my turmeric shots and my olive oil and
Yeah.
all
Oh
of
yeah.
those things. So yes. Okay. So did you feel a bit of a shift because of all of those hormone changing emotionally with your identity in that perimenopause, and now really now that we're getting closer to menopause?
Yeah, I think again, it's been happening for a while. It's not like just one marker in the body suggests this marker. And wow, from never experienced before migraines to, then that dissipating to warm flushes, I'll call them, because I don't feel like I really have deserved or earned the hot flushes. I haven't really had those at this point, but just where, different brain fog, anxiety, and it's also a confluence with a lot of other aspects in our lives, and my life specifically. I was in a relationship that was really volatile and really intense and could be really painful. And so I attributed a lot of it to that, or I would lump it all into, oh, it's all me. It's all my hormones. Oh, look at me. It's my fault. I got to get a handle on this. And yeah, so just kind of finding our way through. I'm right smack in the middle and had the whole full range of experiences of, oh, what if I can't remember, teaching yoga? I teach still asana because I love the body and I think it's so important to keep it up and moving. I teach meditation, but there's moments I'm like, well, what if I forget a sequence? What if it just goes? And the fear tingles like that, which I really just hadn't experienced before. I'd felt so sharp and acute. Everything was right there and in my face and ready. And like I had this infinite connection to this library inside my brain. And then suddenly I was just like, which is my psychology is back there and on, in your brain, and you're just, and a different relationship to my body and going, oh, it doesn't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've experienced just an incredible, beautiful swath, and been a journey.
Yes, a journey. Yes, such a good word. And I think our bodies want different things and our hearts want different things. Every part of us wants different things. And I don't know about you, but this perimenopause journey can be extra tricky if we don't know ourselves well, or if we don't have a strong connection to our inner voice. And I'm guessing you do have a very strong connection to your inner voice. So what can you speak into about how yoga helps us connect with our inner voice and the importance of having a connection to that.
Yeah, it's absolutely vital. And I won't sit here without also saying I am having a human experience. I have been practicing meditation since I was 17 years old, obviously a very long time ago, and diligently and intently. And then all these deep dive spiritual practices, ashrams, teacher trainings, immersions, um, the physical parts of yoga, the dharmic parts like the yogic teachings, the philosophies, the meditation, and yet still, and I want everyone to know, I'm absolutely on a normal journey like everyone. Those inner voices of self identity and like, oh, knowing yourself. Suddenly, I'm like, is that voice true? I'm
Mm.
mistrusting the voice. It's saying mean things to me sometimes, and it's not being like anchored in center spaces. So I still have to come into the space like a brand new baby in a sense. Like, I don't know this terrain. I don't know the pathway through this. It doesn't, just because I've have decades of yoga practice doesn't mean that somehow I am alleviated. Now I do have an incredible set of tools that helps me maybe not spin out all the way. That doesn't mean I don't have like a big skid over here and just be like, what? And then I have tools to sort of bring myself back. And that is, of course, sitting with oneself silently, quietly. Some call it meditation. I like to just open the platform to sit, just sit with yourself. And even if your thoughts are just being incredibly intrusive, just giving yourself that time to be with yourself and see if we can open up the aperture of our own internal lens, almost as if we have to unknow ourselves, unpack ourselves to be able to draw it back into what this new time is going to be. Again, when I went from pre-children to children, I allowed myself this incredible journey of letting that person die. I went through the whole process of funeral and just like that is done. And this feels like another opportunity, as we have many in life, if we get to keep living, of really just going to me that did all these things and had all these things and identified myself in all these ways. It's kind of like, okay, that is done. Doesn't mean those aspects won't be present, but I want to rebuild myself with what's present and what's real. And it's a very different reality.
First of all, I want to say that hormonally speaking, since that's my specialty, what you just said is exactly what I teach people is these times of huge hormonal fluctuation. So puberty, I know you have daughters, so you know how that can go. Me too. Then pregnancy and post-pregnancy, another huge hormonal shift. And then perimenopause into menopause is the third huge hormonal shift. And we really do become different people in each of those experiences. And so that is exactly what I'm finding yoga to be really a useful tool to move through and to find exactly what you were saying, those quiet moments, call it what you will, to sit with yourself. And one of the other things I wanted to ask you about is this idea of impermanence and how that is such a big topic in yoga, and so many practices are around accepting the impermanence of things. And so I'm just wondering, can you speak into that? Like maybe what yoga teaches us about impermanence and maybe a practice that we could maybe use in our life to help us with that?
Yes, impermanence is pretty much within the whole context of yoga. And it really suggests that, we have some idea that the inhale is better than the exhale. Like the beginning, the rise up into growth and building things and families and wealth, and that the exhale is of difference. It's difference and emptying, right? And this is an era for me of embracing certain types of emptying. Again, I still am doing weights. I'm out. I mean, I'm travel the world. I'm endlessly on the road. So, but embracing that parinamavada, which is this notion of life as constant change. And the only thing that creates, or the major thing that creates suffering, is grasping and not wanting things to change, wanting to hold on and make something freeze. So we'll notice that again, if we choose to parent, like, oh, they're growing, and the ways in which we grasp again to our own identity. So the practices, and that suffering is called dukkha, and it's this place that we sit in where we just are not accepting life as life is. And yoga says it is the inhale and the exhale, it is the birth and the death, that is of equal beauty and brilliance and potency. So a practice, just even as simple as breath practice, watching the breath come in, watching the breath move out, watching the breath come in, watching it move out, giving it equal love and attention on both, and recognizing that in each breath cycle is a birth and a death. There's a beginning, there's a fullness, and there's an emptying. And again, just because we're in perimenopause or menopause or postmenopausal or feeling just those little seeds of what this might be during this time, is that it's going to be a change, and there's going to be a beginning part, there's going to be a middle part, and there's going to be an ending part, and then to some other change. And that will, as long as we get to live, that will be the endless practice. So even, doing a simple asana movement, breath work and then movement practice, you get to watch like this warming and this building, and you build it up, and then you return back to the ground and you rest on the earth, and your whole back body is softened into the ground, and the front body just washes with emptiness in a sense. So it's there and present in all of the practices of yoga.
And I really love that about yoga, is that practicing, you're not going into a practice with a goal in mind as far as this goes, but it's like over the years, when you hear this language, it gives you something to use in your own life when you're struggling with that, holding on to what was. And so I just love that about the practice of yoga, is that the mindfulness of it we get to use in whatever way comes up in our life. So I think that's really great. Then more on a physical level, obviously yoga is such a great way to reconnect with, or to stay connected to the body. And I say reconnect because our bodies do change a bit in perimenopause and menopause. And of course, we can stay super strong and do the things to help us stay strong. But when we are feeling so much change, can you speak into how the physical aspect of yoga helps us to stay connected and reconnect to our body?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. Because it is such a vast range in the sense that, one, we've probably burnt a lot of our adrenals already. And we might even have brought ourselves into some form of insulin resistance. And we know we've probably run up our cortisol, especially if you're like a go, 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 just hot yoga, trail running, whatever the thing might be, which is all beautiful. And also, you can see it in that depletion in yourself. You can see it, and you're like, wow, that's really showing up. So what the interplay is, my joints are hurting. I wonder how I can kind of trace that into some of my actions and some of the ways that I'm choosing to be present. How can I rebalance my cortisol? Of course, we need it. We want it up in the morning. So that's why those movements in the morning, but also those really calming, full nervous system recovery. And that can be an epic journey for us to recover and downregulate that polyvagal theory, of getting the nervous system kind of back into that rest and digest, because that's where the immune system and the regeneration that we're needing, because we're moving away from rapid regeneration, which we had in younger life, right? So now we want to go into restorative postures and restful and meditations or yoga nidras, where we can move into those spaces where the nervous system feels safe, right? So we want to both activate, right, and build muscle and do a lot of resistance in some of those beautiful practices that we can do. And yet we don't want to burn like our resources too. We don't want that flame too big. So it's like keeping it lit, keeping it lit, keeping it lit. And then also those sweet, sweet, small little restful spaces. And whether that comes in the arc of more Vira intensive morning energy, practice, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, and then an evening yoga nidra that you listen to or that you walk yourself through, or one restorative postures, or leg up the wall, right? In your bed, you flip it around. So it's not a big drama, and you just spend 10 minutes with the legs inverted up the wall, and really not taking in media, just letting yourself go into conscious rest.
Yeah, it really is amazing, isn't it, that yoga provides such a great opportunity to move in our body, but just what you said, not stress our adrenals and overtax that HPA axis. It really is just brilliant in that way. And I think I went to yoga school to teach when I was younger, and I knew that, but I didn't appreciate it until now in perimenopause, when I do have that tendency, like so many women I know, to go, 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 our modern world. What are we accomplishing? What are we doing? All of these action driven are really valued in our world. And yoga, I'm just falling back to now. It just feels so good to come back to it and say, I can stay strong and I can stay calm. And that supports that hormonal journey so in so many different ways. Like you said, blood sugar, our metabolism, so many ways. Our adrenals take over our hormone production. It's just so great on so many levels. I did your restorative class last night before bed, one of them, and I slept so well. And I don't normally do yoga before bed, and more of a daytime, and it was so restorative. And I have my aura ring, so I woke up this morning and I confirmed, even though that's so silly and not necessary. But so I love that. So do you have other tangible things you do during the day to come out of your head and into your body? Like even just any rituals you do during your day, like anything at all, Vedically or yoga, that just small things
Yeah.
that help you get into your body?
Yeah. One of the things to sort of tie into what you had said around yoga and say, oh, wow, it's an art and a science. And it really, like a deep, deep dive prior to all the amazing tests we have now and ways in which we can check in on our hormones. It already knew, and it had all these tests to figure out, okay, where someone is spiking and where someone is down. And then they made this incredible sister science of Ayurveda, right, of the body, right? So the knowledge or the wisdom of life, of embodiment. And so, right, you think often of yoga as just this transcendence, but for me, yoga is immanence, meaning embodiment. And then the Ayurveda part is really, how do I tend to this? So yes, I have, oh yeah, rituals, rituals, rituals. I have a dinacharya, which is called a daily ritual. And I travel a ton. So I really have to compress some of it down, or if some people are in more big caretaking times with children or whatever it might be, busy work. And yeah, so I can compress it, but I can also have the expanded version. And that's anything from tongue scraping to cold splashes on my face, which I've really actually keep doing, or ice bowls for my face in the morning. It's the warm water in the morning. You can either have lemon, unless your body's averse to the acidity, then in which case I do more ginger, turmeric, and just keep that running all day. That warm water, it just tells the nervous system you're okay. I go through whole body connection, whether it's a dry brush or hands on. Again, I don't want to overwhelm people, but then I put oils on my body. This is for me as vata, which just really means, pretty dry times, that I put oils on my body. And yeah, it's a very long list of many things that I do. I sit every morning. I try to do either the legs up the wall or some type of yoga nidra at night, or some restorative posture, or a couple of restorative movements, because sleep during this time, that is the time we're regenerating. And it's one of the hardest things during this era, that people struggle with sleep. It's like the time you need it the most is the time that 3 a.m., that 2, 3 a.m. sort of spike that's happening around the liver, and everything's trying to find its way. If we'd had ate too late or had too much sugar. So suddenly we all become like these weird experts, because we're trying to manage. but just the simplicity is actually not as complicated. And that's the thing that I noticed as I started to gather almost too much information, where I was like, 3,000 grams of protein and a billion things of fiber. And then you've got to do this and that. And it's like, oh, have this, this supplements and these supplements, but that, oh, not at that time, but at this time, at this. And I was like, my God, I can't even, it would be more than a full-time job. And we're all operating in real life. Oh yeah, this heavy weight, this heavier weight, carry this, do that. So I think the information is good. And then discernment of hugging it into reality. What I always suggest for myself and also those around me, what is doable? Then leave the shame out, like set the rest aside, just free yourself of shame and do what it is that you can do. So yeah, I have mounds and mounds of practices. I have my morning sit. I have my dinacharya, my daily ritual and daily rhythms, neti pot if I can. And, then I have my asana practices and pranayamas. And this again suggests that I have all the time in the world. And I condense those. I have my morning walks, trying to get the sunlight, so you're just doing the best you can, wearing the weight vest when you can. But if I'm in Saudi Arabia teaching and traveling, I don't bring it with me. Like I've got what I can carry and I do the best I can.
Yeah, there's such a fine line with trying to do way too much. I see it all the time. And as someone who teaches women, it comes up a lot. And I like to call these opportunity lists and not to-do lists
Yeah.
because we don't want to put more pressure on ourselves and more stress. But those little things you mentioned, those little things, I'm going to put them in quotes because I do think the little things are the big things that add up. Those rituals, those habits that we make. I think the ones that you mentioned are really powerful and they're very doable. Like the cold water on your face, the warm water to drink, the legs up the wall before bed. That makes me talk nicer. I just even thinking about that small thing that someone can do. I love what you're saying. Pick things, do it. Don't shame yourself for what you're not doing and just do what you can do and focusing
Yeah.
on that. So again, it's that balance of taking things in, but letting things go. And kind of all comes back to the breath practice, which is so really cool. And
If I can just,
yeah,
do you mind if I insert one thing in there
please.
too? Is that take time to write to yourself, your self, past self, your current self, your future self, and then creating intention. So I don't want to feel labored by this journey. I want to feel lighter. There's so much that's falling away. And so I'm taking up humming practice. I chant. One of my big things is bhakti yoga, and I have many albums, and I travel around the world, and I'm singing and chanting, and that alone is one of the most powerful things we can do for our nervous system. For anyone in here listening, it could just be humming while I do dishes. Humming when I'm driving from here to there, where it's habituated. It's like even exhale sighs. Just.
Yeah.
So simple, but make it sort of part of the thing. Like, it doesn't all have to be, I've got to do all this stuff. Some of it is the undoing and just making a patterning in our life where it's like, oh, I want to feel unburdened, not more burdened.
And that's such an art to that balance. And it takes experimenting and trying new things. And what you said is just making it part of your life. I try to do that sigh every time I get in the car. Because sometimes I'm like driving my kids to soccer and all these places. I'm like, my shoulders are up here and I'm like, go, go. And I'm like, just that one habit, what you said. I loved that deep breath in and the sigh. That changes everything.
Yeah.
That small thing. It's
And it
amazing.
costs nothing.
And it costs nothing. And it can just be a habit. And
Yeah.
I really love that. People want something fancy. They want a protocol. They want a supplement. And I think these practices are so profound and really have a big impact on the physical and emotional level, on everything. So I love those suggestions. And is there anything else you want to add about ways that you see that yoga could help with the perimenopause journey? And yeah, what else do you want to add about that? I'm sure there's so many ways, but
There are so many ways. It's really just making a commitment to yourself and showing up in ways. Again, yoga now has, we have access to such a fantastic range. And so give that gift to you. So it lubricates in the joints, it creates muscle strength, you have the resistance with gravity and the earth, you have elongation, and you have the sort of resettling of our nervous system on those exhales in the breath. So lengthen the exhales, whether you're just doing inhale, arms up, exhale longer on the arms down. Again, you could be standing about to make dinner. You ground your feet and feel your feet on the ground. And yoga shows up in absolutely everything that we do. Conscious breath, attention to breath, giving ourselves permission. And I think that's the thing during this time. It's like, can I come home to me? And yoga, again, has no outward aim. Yoga is not trying to prove anything to the world. Look at, I've mastered perimenopause. Look at, I've mastered look at me. I've achieved, like, I should win the menopause award. And it's like, it doesn't, it has no outward aim. It's such an internal journey of self wholeness and self acceptance, acceptance of growth and decay, acceptance of doing well at all of your protocols and not doing well at your, like dropping them all and then having to gather them back up. And it has this patience that it's always going to be there. You can always roll out a mat and just come through a Surya Namaskar, or just stretch your bodies in ways that feels good with breath, with breath, with breath. That makes it the yoga. It's just that consciousness with breath. Sitting with yourself, honestly. I mean, there could not be any better, small, incremental, doable. I'll come back to that. Whatever you choose to incorporate during this time, have it be something that's liberating and consistent. Give yourself that consistency. So then you have to be honest. And that honesty is about what is doable. Oh, I'm actually spending more time wasting my time on social media. Oh, I could turn off my Netflix 10 minutes early and just give myself 10 minutes before bed. Or it seems so simple, but we're so drawn into these other areas, and so to pull back. And then, yeah, just having, I think, a team of support, or really places where you can be really honest with what's happening. Own it, be loud about it, share it, talk to your family, friends, coworkers. It gives such permission, and that permission that you're giving others emboldens yourself to own those parts of yourself. So any rejection of time, aging, our value, our worthiness in the world sort of gets softened. And a big part of yoga is sangha, is community and coming together with like-mindedness. And we can have our complain sessions, but we can, and kind of laugh about it, but we can also have our really empowering reminders. And also knowing in those conversations, oh, look at all those resources. How incredible.
yeah, there's so much wisdom in what you just said. I hope people rewind that and listen to that a few times. Just a couple things I wanted to double click on was I love what you say about there are things that we can add to our lives, but then there are also things we can let go of. And so remembering both of those sides and not just adding, but also, okay, well, what can we let go of? That social media and all of that busyness. And then I love that you mentioned community, because I do feel like as we're going through perimenopause, it is so wonderful. So many women I work with say they love just hearing other people's stories and connecting around what other people are experiencing and being able to actually say what they're experiencing and to be able to have a chance to talk about it. So I love that. And I know that community is really big for you in your yoga world, and you offer that to people, a wonderful community. And then those practices you gave, I love them. You said hum, breathe in your kitchen, longer exhale than inhale. How long does that take, Janet?
Yeah. No.
right? No, 2 minutes. I mean, your nervous system
Yeah.
will thank you. Sitting with yourself, so important. And I can't even read my writing of the fourth one, but it was so
Well,
good. I
even
wrote it down.
the just doable. I think a lot of them is doable and consistent. I think
Consistent.
that would be the key thing. And so even if you start some type of journey here of transition journey, you can call it the transition journey. You don't have to even call them menopause or perimenopause. Just transition. It's a major, major transition in life. And it's one that where you can wake up any day and it's never too late as long as you're alive. It's never too late to make that. It's a gift to yourself. And then in that gift to yourself, it's a gift to everybody else. And I think, again, especially in the woman's body, we are used to taking care. It's an external, like caretaking. And there's something where it's easier to take care of everybody outside of ourselves. It's almost easier to give it away. It's harder to come back and go, I need to own and reclaim and know that it's never too late for me to absolutely kick ass. And
Hell yeah.
that just means with whatever life is offering, the hardest journey through menopause, because there's can be some brutal hits, and it depends on your ancestry and what you're going to go through in your life and circumstances. And but you've got this. That's really what I want to say. It's like it's never too late. You've got this. Add a few things in, but also, like you said, let a few things go. And it's not an outward aim; it's an inward acceptance.
Yeah, that's so helpful. Thank you so much for that. And if people want to find you, Janet, how can they find you?
Oh, you almost can't miss me once you know about me. And then you said suddenly like the red car that you saw. I'm on Janet. I've got Janet Stone Yoga, full online programs, full online trainings. I am traveling, like I said, everywhere. This year I was in India, China, Africa, Saudi Arabia, and just wonderful. I just get to go everywhere. So I'm physically in many places. Online memberships and Janet Stone Yoga on the social media platforms that we're going to be putting down, so we can have our yoga nidra.
Yeah, clearly.
But yeah, you kind of YouTube, and yeah, so you can kind of find me in so many different places.
Yeah, and I can't recommend your practices enough. I mean, over the years, you are my favorite. That's why I asked you to come on, and I consider myself very picky. So I can't speak highly enough about your practices, and I hope to meet you in Bali. I am
Yeah.
really hoping that happens, but I'm grateful for your wisdom. I'm grateful for your practices and how they've helped me through this time. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And I really just appreciate, I want to reflect back to you that you are cultivating community, and there are people who can tune in who maybe feel lost, or just that reminder in the midst of hot flashes and confusion and body changes. And I think to normalize it and come together and be with each other and just empower, in particular at this exact very moment with what's happening with women in the world. So very powerful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Janet. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
That's it for this week. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a comment and a review, as that helps it reach more people. You can find me and the courses I teach, the Midlife Hormone Club and the Energy Club, online at Mountain Rebalance. I help midlife women understand their body and age better. If that sounds like you, please join my newsletter. And if there's a topic you'd like me to cover here or an expert you want me to have on, let me know. In the meantime, keep playing, and here's to aging our best.